auto mechanic. So I'm actually going to do this video because I see numerous other videos out there, people talking about quitting being a mechanic. So about 7 years ago, I was an automotive mechanic for about almost 20 years of my life. Basically, one dealership I actually stayed at for 15 years, and then I basically thought the grass was greener on the other side. Out of all the people that kind of frightened me from flat rate, I decided to take the leap, and other people said you could do a lot better on flat rate. So we're going to get right into this, but I'm basically going to make this video about why I left being a mechanic, what I loved about being a mechanic, and basically the health concerns you can get with being a mechanic, the health concern or health issues I have, and why I'm not being a mechanic. And I also want to go over if you're in the trades and you're not going to go to college or anything like that, and you're going to pick a trade right out of high school. I'm going to talk about the trades, what I would have went into instead of being a mechanic, and basically just kind of break it down simple, but I'm going to put it all in the topics. So anyway, if you are new here to the channel and you're watching this and you're clicking on it for the title, consider subscribing. While I have outdoor attractions, drone footage, photography, I am still going to have some basic maintenance and stuff on my own vehicle when that comes across, and I do need to do that kind of stuff. Or if I encounter a friend's vehicle that needs a little help or something like that, or just vehicle reviews in general, whatever I encounter in life, I may put it in there. So definitely consider subscribing to my channel. So talking about it again, I'm going to put it into kind of like a sequence, and I don't want to bore you. So if you're following along, I definitely want to keep you on track, especially if this is going to make your decision in life on being an auto tech, maybe another trade or something like that, or if you're just thinking about being an auto tech, or you're thinking about going into something else. I'm going to try to fill you in with everything that I can to kind of help you out. So again, talking about the positive things, we'll start there. So positive things, I'll say the money can be good, and I'll get into the pay. There's actually a couple different scales. So you got flat rate and you also have hourly, and I will get into them in a few minutes too. So the money can actually be good. Another positive scale. So basically you have freedom. So when you go into work, you work pretty much independently, and you go get your job from either a service writer or a service manager or something like that, and you basically go back and sometimes you get to take the car on a test drive, and also you work alone at a bay. You have your own lift and things like that, your own tools and such. So you have freedom. And while, auto techs have some of these bigger jobs and things that need to be done with people in bulk, lift a bed off the back of a truck, for instance, something like that. You need to work as a team once in a while. Basically, most of anything you're doing as an auto tech, it's basically you, and you're independent and you're doing it yourself. So there's a lot of freedom. So I realized I could go on forever with the pros and the cons, the bad and the good and the negative, or the the bad and the good, however you want to say it. So I'm just going to talk about a couple more topics. So first off, I'm going to talk about if you are working in cars and you're a car enthusiast, so male or female, if you're a car enthusiast, and you're the type of person that likes to custom modify your truck, your car, maybe a Jeep or something for off-roading, that's another plus, because you can save yourself money and do it yourself, and also you have that little happy side in your brain, and you like doing this. It's your hobby, it's your passion. You just like to do this kind of stuff. So, it's also kind of cool too. And besides doing your own work and your own customizing, whether you're taking a car and you're racing at a track, or again, like you said, you're going to off-road like a Jeep or something, you want to do lifting tires or something like that, you have the means to actually be able to do this yourself. And again, it makes you happy, and it's what you love to do. It's just something that you wake up every day and you're not miserable. You're not like thinking, I got to go to work today and I got to do this, I got to go clean out the the sewers clogged, and I got to go climb down in the manhole. It's just something you're not excited to do. You're actually excited. You're like, I get to get up today and I get to go to work, and looks like today I've got a Corvette or something scheduled in the dealership that I've got to take out. Obviously you got to respect it, but you're trusted by this dealership trusts you, and then these the customer actually trusts you because they trust the dealership. So it's like kind of a real good feeling that you're respected too. So pay, and I talked about this, and I said I was going to get into it earlier, and I'm going to basically break it down very short, sweet, and simple for you. So there's two types of pay in the automotive world. So there's flat rate pay and there's hourly pay. Hourly pay is actually as it seems. So you are paid an hourly rate no matter what you accomplish in a day, just like any other job. No matter what you accomplish, if you get 2 motors pulled in a week and you get 10 brake jobs, you are going to get the exact same pay at the end of the week. So depending on how fast or slow you are is not going to classify your paycheck. Flat rate pay. So flat rate pay is actually breaking that down and making it real simple and not getting into detail. Flat rate pay is basically you are paid by the job you do. So To make a long story short, if you get a brake job and it pays 2 hours, if you get that brake job done in an hour and a half and it's done right and it's out the door and to the customer, you get 2 hours pay. That can also go on the flip side. Most customer pay jobs, they know how to quote and they can compensate for a broken bolt or, having to put a caliper on if it was a brake job or something like that. They can actually compensate for that. So flat rate pay can be beneficial to the technician. On the warranty side, you have these manufacturers and they basically take 3 automotive technicians out there, or maybe they're even engineers. I forgot what they take, but they take these 3 people that can accomplish this job and they make them do that job, and they basically, after the 3 people get the job done, they take the average time, and that's how they calculate their flat rate pay on warranty work. So if you're at a dealership and something goes wrong with somebody's engines, and you look at some of these sophisticated vehicles out there today, like they just had a recall go out on the 2022 to 24 or 23 Tundras, on talking about metal debris or something from the machining process in the engine actually getting into these blocks and contaminating the engines and ruining the bearings and stuff like that. So something like that and that sophisticated, it can really go against you. You have to be a really good technician. You have to be very fast, otherwise you can actually lose pay and money. So another thing that you can take to your advantage, and obviously being careful for insurances purposes and things like that, and watching what you do, you can do some simple things on the side. So say your neighbor next door says, I just brought my car to get it inspected and they told me it's got a loose tie rod and a ball joint. So if you are if you have the means to actually work in your driveway, or maybe you just have a garage and it's a rainy day out there and you have the means to bring their car into your garage and you have a jack and some simple tools, you can actually work on their car, replace a tie rod, replace the ball joint, and it's convenient because they're right next door, or it's just a friend and you go to their place or something like that. You have the means to make a little bit of money on the side, and you also have the means, in a week to maybe make that extra bit of money that could help you out and maybe put you going on a vacation or something like that in life. So last on talking about the money, real quick, obviously anyone that knows or you work on cars, you can save your family money. So you can work on your family members' cars, your immediate family, you can work on your own cars. And we all know, whether you're somebody that brings your car into the dealership and you know the hourly rate and what's going to cost. If it's a big job, you can save yourself thousands of dollars working on your own vehicle. Now that I've talked about all the positive things, well, there's a million more positive things out there, I'm going to talk about some of the negatives. So whether this is going to make or break your decision, I hope this kind of helps you, but I also don't want to steer you away. If you are somebody who's going through school and you're passionate about cars, don't just take what I'm saying in your mind and run with it. Basically, go try it and see how you like it for yourself, because everybody's going to vary on how you feel, your mind, your body, your energy. And that's what's also played a big role in why I'm not doing it anymore and why I left it. So, talking about why I left or why not to do it, some of the negatives. But first off, I want to say, if you are new here and you're thinking about going into this and you're letting this video base your decision on this, don't listen to me or anybody else. Go out there, get into the field you're going to go into. Don't listen to the negative. If you want to listen to the positives and keep that in your mind, do that, but don't listen to the negative. Go out there and try it for yourself, because we are all different and we all have different levels in our life. We all have different tolerances. So go out there, give it your all. If it's your passion, just shoot for the sky and go for it. On the negatives, so I want to talk about some of these negatives. So I'm going to do some not so severe, and then I'm going to talk kind of about the future in some of these electrical cars and what you're going to have to think about if you're going to start out young and you're going to go into this and you're going to keep with technology and work on some of these new electrical cars, because it's coming no matter what, whether we like it or not. That's the way the future is going, and that's the way the government is pushing us. So anyway, talking about some of the less severe things. So I want to say, first off, I'll just do some kind of funny but just little inconvenience things you may encounter. One, for instance, is actually going to be in the winter time. So me and the people that I used to work with in the garage, we would, kind of dread going in on a snowy day into work, or even in the winter a lot of the time. As long as things were frozen outside in the car, we would dread going into work, and in our eyes, we would actually call it a slush bomb. So we would go into work, and you basically take this car that had been sitting outside, and it's 10 degrees outside, everything's frozen. You bring it into your 65-degree garage and you put it up on the lift, and the next thing you know, you basically got a tropical, salty, road grimy, nasty rainstorm. So how a lot of us would actually deal with this is we would put on a coat while we're underneath the car, because obviously we have to stay clean, because we have to get back into the customer's car before we bring it outside. But this was one of the negatives. It's kind of funny, because you would just be walking by a car, and next thing you know, the car had been in there for 15 minutes, and this big clump of slush and snow that was sitting on the back of the mud flap on the rear quarter panel of the car would just fall on the ground, and it would just plaster you and soak your pants and soak your boots. So it made for a real miserable day when you're in there. Unless it was in a perfect world, or you had the car in there overnight. There was a snowstorm. We were lucky enough to fill the whole garage with all the cars, and you got to start off fresh and with a nice, clean, dry car, or you got to actually bring it over to the wash bay and rinse all the snow and salt, and everything wasn't frozen on there. Then it sucks. It definitely is not fun to work on cars in the winter, standing underneath them, getting dripped on by nasty, salty water. Second minor inconvenience. So if you are one of them people that you are not really tolerable to heat, well, let me inform you that if you're going to work on cars and you are not directly, obviously, unless maybe you're in Florida and there's a lift outside, or somewhere, some of these warm tropical climates, maybe you are working outside. But I want to first off say, yes, you're going to have shade over you, and yes, some people do get the luxury of working in a garage that actually has air conditioning, and these are large, expensive dealerships, and a lot of them are Lexus, and some of the Cadillac dealers, these high-end ones that have the money to be able to keep the shop nice and climate controlled air conditioning, that'd be great. But if you are working in just a small independent garage, or an older dealership, or some kind of a dealership that just doesn't offer AC, or they don't have the money to do it, or maybe they feel like they don't need to, you are also going to be doing tests, and you have the engine running, and if it's 90 degrees out, you have a engine that's running in front of you that the operating temperatures are 210 degrees, and the exhaust temperatures can reach anywhere from 1,000 to, depending on if you're revving it up, 2,000 degrees. So if you are very intolerable to heat and differences like that, that's another thing you want to keep in mind. If you do not like the heat, you do not want to work on cars, especially when you're testing and running engines. So I went over the minor inconveniences. So next I want to say this is some of the more severe reasons why I'm not working on cars anymore. And again, it's going to be under tolerances, so everybody has a different tolerance. So again, don't let this make your decision. Go out there and do it yourself. So first topic I want to talk about is the chemicals. So in all your cars, from basically when the cars came out with a combustion engine, they've had all these different chemicals. So you've got engine oil, you have gasoline, and you have antifreeze, and power steering fluid, and transmission fluid. You have all these chemicals you have to work with. Never mind the fact that you also have these chemicals when you're working on cars for prepping different things. When you're working on an engine job or a brake job or something like that, you have these dangerous chemicals that you actually have to clean these surfaces and all that kind of stuff. So while you are working on this, if you are very sensitive to smells and strong chemicals, I do not advise you working on cars right off the bat. If you're just sensitive to stuff in life and things get to you, then don't even think about it. Just kind of go on and find something else to do in life. The second one I want to talk about, so it's not so much the severity as basically your shape and your strength. So if you're going to work on cars, especially trucks, and getting into trucks, if you're going to work on big stuff like tractor trailers and CDL commercial vehicles, then I overemphasize it even more. You have to be strong. You have to be physically fit. You have to be energetic. And things in the automotive world, as far as the mechanical bit of things, especially here in the Northeast, when things rust, you have to be strong. You just have to be strong. There's no doubt about it. You have to be physically fit. You have to be energetic, and you have to be strong. So if you're not strong, you're a weak individual, do not work on cars. Strong, again. So another way, and I'm going to make this nice and simple. Well, there's a million different other topics I could talk about. I am going to get into some of the other trades, and then for those of you that are watching that want to know towards the end, I'm going to briefly talk about why I personally got out of working on cars at the end of this video. But first off, I want to say, using the word strong again. Cars today are so sophisticated. There's so many different systems in there. There's so many different safety systems in them. They're almost to the point where there are some out there that are actually driving themselves. And with everything becoming electrical, you have to be working on these cars today. Even back in the day, or throughout the years that I was doing it, all these other trades and things that I'm going to talk about, you are doing at least one of them or 2 or 3 of them when you're working on cars. So plumbing, there's plumbing throughout cars, especially some of the electric ones with all these cooling systems and things to cool these batteries. There are numerous pipes throughout cars. So if you worked on a car, you have basically been a plumber throughout your life. Electrician, obviously electricians are going to vary from cars to houses, and actually the cars are going to be 20 times more complicated than working in a house, because an electrician in a house is a lot more simple than an electrician in a car. Even bringing it down to the 12-volt side of it, it's still a lot more simpler out there in a trade, in a wall in a house, than it's actually going to be in a car on the 12-volt side. Never mind getting into some of these electrical cars with these, thousands of volts and things. They will kill you. They will kill you quick if you don't know what you're doing. HVAC, we have heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. That's all in cars. It's been in there for years. So, you've already been an HVAC tech on a car. So, with that being said, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head if there's anything else. I'm sure there's more I'm missing, but working on a car, you've got a little taste of every other trade. So now, while I'm saying that, and before I get into why I stopped working on cars towards the end of the video, we're going to get into some very brief other trades and why I would have picked them if I had actually had a choice in life. Or I did have a choice in life, but why I would have picked them now, knowing what I actually know now and I didn't know then. So, moving on here, and this is going to be very brief before I kind of get into why I personally actually left the automotive industry. And I'm making this video because I'm not directly out there, and I get a lot of questions, or I get somebody that just stops by, specifically like where I'm actually working in a store, and I encounter customers, and I get numerous questions like, why aren't you doing this, and why aren't you doing that anymore? Why are you working this? You're not making good money, or you could be doing this. So I've kind of made this video to actually kind of like tell the people that wonder why, like that don't directly talk to me, or they don't have the option to talk in depth to me, or they only have a few minutes to talk to me. I'm going to kind of like make that in the end of the video of my in-depth details. Well, everybody sees me on my previous YouTube videos of working on my Tacoma and all these things, my movements and all, they see me in the video and they see me doing well. I'm going to kind of get into detail on why I'm not doing that stuff anymore, and what I would like to do and what I could do. And yeah, so we'll go from there. So first off, I'm going to say, and I did include these of what you actually are being an automotive tech. You mix in a bunch of trades, but if I was to go back knowing what I know now, there is a bunch of different reasons why. So first off, you're at the dealership, you're there for 15 years. So you are basically just a number working in a garage. Yes, you are still independent, but you are a number. So the customer that comes in to pick up their car, they see the smiling, pretty face, good looking face, ugly, even if it's an ugly face, the service writer or the service manager. So they're basically paid to inform the customer and relay the information and tell them what the tech did to your car. So the technician does not get any credit. You have no acknowledgement in whether you're doing a dirty job or a clean job and you're working on the interior in somebody's car, whether it's a brake job, just a simple oil change. You don't get credit. You're just a number on the RO. So over years and time, bad things happen to customers' cars. Techs make mistakes. I've seen tires left loose. I've seen, sloppy a lot of kids do lube tech work. I've seen them not wash their hands, get in, and somebody's, $50,000 Cadillac, and they touch the headliner and they get oil all over it, and the customer goes to hop in their car and they get in their, $50,000 Cadillac that they bring to their detailer every few months, and this grubby guy gets in there and he just touched this and touched that. He gets in the car and leaves these dirty prints all over. So they don't get to see the bad, but they also don't get to see the good. So working in individual trades, for instance, if you're a plumber or an HVAC tech, electrician, anything like that, they get to personally meet you. So you walk into their house, and this is from some of the experience that I've had, or even doing some side jobs and just some minor basic things. You introduce yourself, you're an electrician, you see them face to face. They know who left, they know who did a good job, they know who fixed it good, they know who left their house clean, they know who didn't track, they put some covers over their boots, they know who didn't track in dirt into their house. Being a mechanic, you don't see this. So you never get to interact with the automotive tech. And there may be a rare occasion where you do, you come in the garage or you just hear somebody's good and you get to interact with them. But primarily, they only see the service manager or the service writer, and that's all they see. They don't see the guy, that strived in the heat or the cold, got dripped on for 10 hours, 20 hours, and did his best, put his all of his pride and every bit of effort, blood, sweat, and tears into their car. They never see that. So you are just like this person that you are so valuable in life, because you can have not only one person's life in your hands, but you can basically have, in a big van, you can have a whole a whole family of 10, and all it takes is one mistake, and it's just one mistake or one good thing, and you'll never see. So if somebody makes a mistake, you'll never know, unless it's a very costly mistake. Like anybody who followed the people that worked on this specific limo somewhere over here in New York, and the brakes went out, and the automotive place told them everything was safe, it just passed inspection, and it killed somebody at their wedding, and it's like a wicked tragic story. It's just awful. So in your own garage, where it's just maybe you and one other person, maybe even 3 other people, where you actually interact with the customers and you do the work. So you're basically an auto tech and a service writer, or you manage the shop and you're kind of part manager. You're not gonna, you're just a number. And unless you're a real popular person, like there's one guy I worked with, and he was good. Everything he did, as far as like, people would bring the complicated problems to him, and he was very, very smart, and he always got these problems from these local garages. Even if it was a big dealership, they always knew that this in particular person working at this small dealership, if the most complicated electrical problem had they encountered it and they couldn't figure it out, they could just send it to another shop, because this car has to be fixed, especially if it's under warranty, especially if it's a new car. They would just bring it to this one person, and it would be word to mouth. This guy, bring it to him. But other than that, if you are just your basic automotive technician, you're just a number. So getting into my personal life, and well, some people are actually forced in life, or I've had people say, and I completely understand this, and I actually haven't had the advantage to actually have this in my life because of some mistakes when I was younger, for what I did know then, and I'm sorry, what I didn't know then, what I do know now. I'm not lucky enough to have a family, because my life would have been a lot different if I had made some different choices. But I didn't know then, and now at 40 years old, there's definitely some things in my life I could kick myself for, but there's no going back. It's just life, for everybody's life. We all know that. But anyway, getting into it. So while I've had the advantage to not have a lot over my head, I've lived with my mother for years, and I've basically, I've had a lot of fun in life. I've had my, anybody that knows me, I've had my toys, my vehicles, and all this different things, and my hobbies and all that kind of stuff. And even though like now in life I've just got the basics and I'm happy, I've been able to work different jobs, jump around. I've had time where I was actually, a lot of people know that I was taking care of my mother at one point in my life, and I'm doing PCA work. And to make a long story short, everybody, people talk crap about it, and men shouldn't be doing that kind of job. There's a lot of men, I've got offered jobs out here in New York doing that kind of work, and I just kind of veered away from it because maybe complications. But my mother's knee at one point in her life had got to the point where she couldn't walk. So one of her friends said, hey, we were kind of tight up on bills and things like that. So she mentioned out and said, hey, Kurt could do a little bit of PCA work, which is personal care attendant work, for you, and make a little bit of extra money, help you guys out with the bills. And that's how I actually kind of get started with doing some different jobs. So I had the advantage to actually drop and leave an automotive dealership or any work, and I had a little bit of money to come back on. I paid a truck off, and I got to have some freedom in life. I got to go out there and experience. Like I started my own lawn mowing business. I started working in people's houses. I painted for people. I did a little bit of electrical work. I serviced some of their boilers and did a little bit of plumbing, just some basic stuff, nothing I would get into trouble with. Or, obviously we need licenses and everything, but all the people that I did something with, and if I was questionable about it, I'd get a licensed electrician to just, kind of backtrack and look at my work and make sure everything was safe, anything that I didn't have any knowledge of. So that's that. Anyway, getting into it now. So talking about why I actually got out of it, besides the fact that I had other money and, I didn't have a lot over my head. I didn't have a lot to, and I had something else to fall back on, but I didn't have a lot of bills and, family and all that stuff. So getting into that now. So what I experienced with getting out of the automotive industry and what I actually have wrong with me. And I don't anybody who's watching this video, I don't expect them. I'm not complaining. Like with everything that I got wrong, I walk, I talk. People see me in my videos. They see me moving fast. I've got liver disease, and everybody's like, oh, well, that's nothing. That's no big deal. So last time I went to the doctors out here, I had been home. I was eating. Yes, that might have been a reason why my liver enzymes are even higher than they were before, and I was eating worse. So I was on the flip side of getting back in the track and feeling good and actually exercising and getting my liver to turn around. But now it's went negative. It went the opposite way. And most recently, I have had a job and I've been fasting and trying again to do things, but I am very stiff. Like I am fatigued. I don't feel good. So even as you see me talking right here, like I've got all kinds of aches and pains. I have got a hernia I've had for years. One doctor told me, oh, we'll go right in there and we'll fix it. And another doctor said, if it's not bothering you, just leave it alone. It can make it more complicated than what it is. So I got two different opinions. I've got a tumor in my bladder that's supposedly caused from smoking. I had looked at about 8 years ago. And to be all honest with you, I don't want them going back up inside me to see if it's progressed. But I have frequent urination, and I get a little bit of a feeling in my bladder when I pee once in a while. So it scares me. It's called inverted papilloma, and they say it's from smoking. And everybody's getting to the doctor and get this checked out and get that checked out. And or you can get you on medicine for your liver and all this stuff. There's not a lot out there you can do. And in the human body, it's either go inside, surgery, you eating well, medicines. It's not like a car. You can't just take your bladder out and replace it. I'm not looking for sympathy, and I just want to say, like, everybody that I encounter and I talk to in life, why aren't you working on cars? Or I had a guy to come in and he said, I got a fence company. He's like, you want to come work for me? No, I don't. Like, I'm working in retail right now, and I do some strenuous labor there. I have to. Like, I'm going to be completely useless if I can't do any labor, and I realize that. I'm not going to say there's not times in my life where I go home and I'm sore as crap. And I'm not going to say there's not things that I do in life. I have to do them, like, no matter what. It's just what the job entails. And I've tried for numerous jobs where I actually sit at a desk, and most people want the experience, or maybe they want somebody out there that they basically are more presentable. I mean, I don't know. It's just, it's kind of like what you've done through life. It just kind of sticks with you. So you have so many choices. So again, getting into it and making it short and sweet and talking about it. I got out of automotive because of the strenuous labor. I got out of automotive because my body kills me. Like, I would be so tired. I would literally come home on a Friday night after working 35 to 40 hours a week. I'd come home, I'd eat dinner, I'd shower. I couldn't even watch TV. I would just go to bed. Like, it would just drain the crap out of me, depending on what I did. So just a few months ago, I was offered a job in a little tiny automotive garage back in my old town. And I thought, you know what, why not give it a shot? Because not only does working on cars drain me, but people drain me. So I was going to be in this garage with one other kid in there, guy, whatever you want to say. I went in there and I got some rough vehicle, bolt snapped, and taking an alternator out. And just that one day that I worked there, with just a little bit of work that I did, and anybody that just is listening to me now, and you work on, some people don't even have the patience to work on their own vehicle and do a brake job. So it takes a lot of patience too with the chemicals. As soon as I was around coolant, antifreeze, all these chemicals, I started to smell these vapors. I realized when I stepped away from the automotive industry, now I can actually breathe good out of my nose. I started to smell better after I got away from the particulate matter and all the stuff that floats through the air. So I guess I'm going to make it pretty simple there. And if you were watching there's a reason why I do everything that I do. And every day, even though I'm in a job right now, I'm actually happy. The people that are there are pretty good people. Well, we're now all going to get along in life, and we all have our differences and views. It's pretty good for the most part, But I'm always striving. I'm always constantly looking to better myself. And a lot of people have told me, why don't you do something automotive related in the parts department? Why don't you do something like be a salesman or something like that in the automotive? Because you got this knowledge and it's always going to stick with you. Why don't you be a service writer or something like that? Unless you have the background, nobody's going to give you the opportunity to actually do it. So I actually have to have an opportunity, or somebody's going to give me the opportunity, and you have to know somebody, or you just, you have to be You just have to present yourself good, I guess. You have to be there, and you have to have someone that is willing to give you a try. Like if I won $1,000,000 tomorrow, and I did decide to open my own garage and be a service writer or service manager to run it, and somebody said, and the problem is today is somebody said, well, he wasn't really that good, or this happened, or you're not supposed to, by law, you're not supposed to talk about somebody or say something negative. And I know people talk. I know it. I hear it. Like it's easily, if I could do something, I would get a lawyer and I would actually go on some of my past, and just from going to a job and talking to somebody that actually knows me, and they kind of like they favor me, like they know I'm a good person. They kind of keep me on the side because if they ever did need me, they'd probably take me. And they just politely told me, I would just take this person off your resume, and I would just take this company off your resume. It's horrible because it's like they know something. They're not going to directly tell me, but somebody somewhere has said something. It really is a shitty world. But I just think about all the positive things, and I try to move on. And I always feel as though we come here with nothing, and we leave with nothing. But what we do in between is a big part of life. So I don't want to give up. Like I don't want to ever give up in life. But anyway, I want to say thank you for watching. And I know if you watched it to the end, it was a real long video. And if you were somebody new here, give whatever you want to do a shot and go for the best. Don't take my opinion or anybody else's.